Yeah, welcome to my YouTube channel where I take you through research methodology, the length and breadth of it. Even if you're a novice, I'll make you understand it very easily. Today, I'm not taking you through all the length and breadth, no, of other topic other than understanding the components or the stages of research methodology. This is part two of it. In part one, I told you that research methodology begins at the identification of the problem. Next, it is transmutation, transmuting the identified problem to a researchable problem. And I also told you that when you transmute those problems into a researchable problem, which is the topic, you conceptualize that topic by creating variables, the independent, dependent, moderating, and suppressor variables. You may not put a moderating variable, and then that means that you will not put a suppressor variable. If you have an independent variable, then there must be a dependent variable. If you include a moderating variable, then there should be a suppressor variable. I told you all that in part one. If you don't have it, if you've not seen it, please search for it, go and listen to it so that you will understand what I want to tell you now. Next, you try to operationalize your conceptualized problem. Operational framework is where you link the variables. You link them, the relationship that exists among the variables. When you do that, the next one is to draw out your hypothesis. When you draw your hypothesis, what you do next is you subject those hypotheses to a regression analysis, either simple regression or multiple regression. Once you carry out the multiple regression, what you do next is you transmute. You just immediately begin to interpret your findings. That is where we stopped in part one, interpretation of your research analysis, their findings of your research analysis. That is where we actually stopped. But in this very video, we are looking at the summary of your work. After you must have interpreted your work, you summarize your work based on chapters, on chapter basis. And each chapter should be in a paragraph. When you finish that, you go to the next one you do is to conclude the entire study. Conclusion is different from summary. Now, the difference between summarizing your work and concluding your work is that while the summary presents the most important points in each of the chapters, the most important points, it can just be in one sentence. It can be in two sentences. The most important point, but it must not be more than a paragraph. After picking the most important points in a chapter, that is a summary. The conclusion focuses on whether the objectives of the study had been achieved or not, or whether the information given at the introduction as it relates to the anticipated designs of the study, whether they were followed or not, or whether the population that was proposed at the beginning of the study was used or not. So that is the conclusion, because you gave an objective of the study. The objective of the study tells you why you are carrying out the study. In your conclusion, you must tell the reader that yes, so this objectives had been trashed. I achieved them. Oh no, I didn't achieve them. Conclusion must capture that. That's the difference between summary and conclusion. And of course, if I want to go into details, the summary has all of them as past tense, because it's something that you did. It's something that you did that you use in your summary, in your conclusion rather. And I want to tell you here now, the abstract which we are going to look at, is also part of this conclusion. Now, after doing that, the next one you do is to make a recommendation. You had concluded your work. You make your recommendation based on your findings. Don't go outside the analysis. The findings of the analysis. The results of the analysis will dictate what and what to recommend. You can recommend beyond the shores of your findings. The recommendation should be limited to the results or your findings or the outcome of the analysis. And that's all. Next, to aid is to suggest contributions of the work to the body of knowledge. Well, you have given your recommendation. You need to tell us what and what has this your work contributed to the body of knowledge. What and what your work contributed to the body of knowledge. It has to tell us. Ask yourself the question, what has my work contributed to the body of knowledge? What new thing has it brought? What solution has it brought to the problem? If you have not brought anything to the problem, then your work is not said to be totally successful, but it has to bring something new. As a point of view, that's the reason you went into the research in the first place anyway. So, what next? After the recommendation, this will you need to carry out what we call the heuristic model. Show your heuristic model. Your heuristic model, as you see it on the screen here, is a link. The heuristic model or schematic or diagrammatic presentation of the impact of one variable and its effect on the other variable, representing a quick fix to the initial identified research problem. Remember that we started from identifying a problem. Now you have identified the problem, you have carried out you've gone through the length and breadth of the research work, and you have come up with a conclusion. You have come up with the analysis. You have come up with the results. These results could be presented in an heuristic model. As a point of fact, it is the heuristic model that also describes your recommendation. From the heuristic model, you draw up your recommendation. Maybe you don't know what that means. Let me just show you what heuristic model is, an example of heuristic model. And look at this now in a topic called profit sharing and work efficiency, heuristic model. And this is what I mean by heuristic model. You could see the variable that we saw earlier, worker need, that is a moderated variable. You can see profit sharing. You can see company policy, a moderated variable. You can see current distribution as a dimension. You can see employee distribution, and all that. These are all employee distribution. These are all measures. Now, this profit sharing impacts on the worker's need. And the worker need also talk about the current distribution. Because when this current distribution is implemented, then the workers are very, very happy. And there's a key which will be used like the strong arrow. The bold arrow means a strong impact. The thin arrow is weak impact, and the dotted arrow is a very weak impact. So from the profit sharing, there's a weak impact here to the company size. That means that the size of the company does not matter when you're talking about profit sharing. All companies should share profit, whether small or not. That's why you see the dotted arrow here. It means that it is irrelevant. And so the company size also does not impact. The size has nothing to do with the distribution plan. You can go ahead and do it. It does not really mean anything. But the strong impact it has, profit sharing has impact on workers' need. And it has impact on the current distribution plan. It means that if you implement this, the needs of the workers will be met. And of course, the policy of the company is also part of it. It is the policy that will bring about, choose the type of distribution it will yield. So this is just a kind of an example of what a heuristic model is. So when you finish with your recommendation, you now present the heuristic model. And there you now suggest after that area for further studies. Remember that I told you sometime, those my previous videos, that every research work brings about research gap. And every research work is a product of a research gap. So you give a recommendation. This recommendation in my previous videos, yes, of course, I told you that every research work is a product of a research gap. And every research gap equally gives birth to another research gap or knowledge gap. So this, any research you carry out was or is a product of a research work carried out earlier. And your own research work will definitely have a knowledge gap or research gap, which will give rise to other researches. And suggestion for areas of further studies is for the researcher to make. Oh, from my research, I want others to please research on this, further study on this area or that area. Next to that is you prepare your abstract. Your abstract, of course, let me just say this here quickly. Most researchers prepare the abstract first. That's what they do. Before they go out with it, they start preparing the abstract. But how can you prepare the abstract when, of course, you had not carried out the work? The abstract, daily, the abstract should come out last because it serves as the executive summary of the conclusion. It is from the conclusion you draw out your abstract. And you have not done your conclusion. So how will you bring your abstract from the front page? Once you see first pages, the preliminary pages, is just the abstract there. By write the abstract, the essence of placing the abstract at the preliminary stage is for the reader not to bother himself to go through the length and breadth of your work before he knows that, this work, I wouldn't have even read it. I didn't see anything. It does not fit my purpose. But the abstract brings it. That's why we put it at the front for other readers to see. Do you want to read this? Is it what you're looking for? If it is, the abstract will tell you. The abstract will tell you that, okay, yes, this is what I want. Then you now start reading in a very bogus manner the details of the research. So after the abstract has been prepared, next, you now prepare the bibliography. Not and the reference, bibliography / reference, or the references. Now, but you should note that while the bibliography is the actual authority or work cited in your study, the references are suggestion for further reading. They are not in the study. So you should know the difference between these two. You should know the difference between these two. References are not in the main study, but bibliography are cited in the main study. That you should take note of. You should know it. All right, what next after the referencing or the bibliography? The most authorities say referencing. References are actually, you are suggesting areas that reader should go and read as it relates to the subject under review. But bibliographies are actually work done by other people, cited by you in your work. Next is the appendix. The appendix is what you should bring next. The appendix accommodates pictures, it accommodates tables, figures, diagrams, and anyone that stretches above a page. If your table is more than a page, two books, just take it down to the appendix so that it does not obstruct the flow of the work. If it is within a page, no problem, because every work is paginated. But if your work, your table, your figure, your pictures, whatever you want to play there, their diagram, there are more than a page, please you take it up. So just push it to the appendix so that it does not distract the reader. That is all I can take in this, my part 2 of the components and stages of research methodology. I want to say thank you very much for your patience. Please, if you have any question at all on research methodology, do not hesitate to send your questions to my WhatsApp line plus 505-2324-6646 or to any of these email you are just looking at on the screen. Thank you once again. See you